Welcome to Young Money with Tracy Bissett, the advice show for young millionaires in the making. It's time for some $1 Million Straight Talk with Tracy, President and Chief Financial Fitness Trainer at Bissett Financial Fitness. Each week, Tracy's going to tell you what you need to know now at the beginning of your earning curve. Basic and advanced financial concepts made clear, healthy money habits and the missteps to avoid, and all the stuff that you can do to set yourself up for a future of fantastic financial freedom. Ready to lace up and start this week's financial fitness training? Let's do it, Tracy.
Welcome to the Young Money Podcast. I'm really excited. We have a very special guest today, Nunzio Presta. Welcome to the show, Nunzio.
Thank you.
So Nunzio is an ex-pro hockey player turned entrepreneur. He is also the founder and CEO of BizON, an online marketplace with over 10,000 active users looking to buy, sell, and grow businesses or franchises every day. He is equipped with a wealth of knowledge when it comes to identifying, building, and funding businesses, in addition to being a thought leader on product development, leadership, business and marketing strategy, and building culture. He sits on the advisory board of multiple startups and is part of Startup Canada's Entrepreneur Success Advisory Council, in addition to being a Startup Canada advisor on Startup Chats. He is a mentor to many entrepreneurs, small business and franchise owners, and is a regular contributor to Thrive Global, a digital resource for individuals and corporations spearheaded by Ariana Huffington. Nunzio graduated from the 10 Rogers School of Management at Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada, with a Bachelor of Commerce. So welcome again, Nunzio.
Thank you. It's always refreshing to hear my bio. It gives me a reminder of what I've done.
Oh, it's extremely impressive. And so all of you young money listeners, we're going to have a great episode today. You can tell by the wealth of his knowledge and experience. So lots of great gems to come out of the conversation. So now that I've read the formal bio, I would love it if you can share in your own words, really what your day-to-day looks like and the nature of your business in a way that we can easily understand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, my day-to-day is I'm just setting the tone and moving the business forward in the right direction at the right time with the right team. And obviously, that comes down to my calendar, my schedule. I literally have my day scheduled in 5-minute slots for everything I have to do in order to make sure that, we're on the right track and achieving our goals and our objectives. I guess in summary, I'm setting the tone for our team to make sure we're continuing to grow our marketplace. As far as our marketplace, like the bio said, we're think of us as the Kijiji, but for the business and franchise for sale world. So we've created this really dynamic and seamless and resourceful marketplace where people can buy and sell businesses or franchises with a ton of focus on creating this captive audience and community in the micro market. And what we define as a micro market are businesses and franchises looking to sell for under $5 million. So, these small mom and pop shops that create the backbone of our economy, that's who we're really looking to service. And one thing that motivates us daily is to make sure we do our job in letting these small businesses and franchise know that they are sellable, they are valuable, and we do our part in keeping them open and thriving. And that has a great impact on the economy. And we're excited every day to work on that type of thing.
Well, it's super exciting. And you and I were introduced by Sharon Connolly of Business Development Bank of Canada. And Sharon's been a guest on the show a couple times. So we know how important small businesses are to the economy, which is fantastic. And one of my missions with Young Money is really to showcase different paths to success. And we haven't to date until today really showcased how you can get an existing business. And so I think it's wonderful that you joined us so we can have some chats about that to help people think about it from a different way. You don't necessarily need to start it up yourself. So it's great that you're here.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your background, kind of your journey to how you arrived here.
Absolutely. So I identified the opportunity to create a marketplace like BizON through my own pain that I experienced while in university. I was looking to sell my little business, and I got turned down by bigger brokers and realtors, and I got turned off by publicly promoting the opportunity on a directory or a newspaper or magazine at that time. So I really digged in and said there has to be something I can do here in order to develop a community and marketplace where small business owners have the confidence to promote their listing on their own, or a broker representing a small business owner could leverage us as a marketing tool. And that's what I did. I jumped in to learn about this space. I uncovered some pretty dynamic trends. For example, the fact that a ton of millennials were interested in moving away from the 9 to 5 and potentially being their own boss. We notice other trends as far as increase in franchising. The other trends as far as baby boomers looking to retire and exit and not having many options as far as understanding who they can sell it to, or even if their business is sellable. And then we saw a lot of cool data and trends from foreign investors looking to buy small businesses, existing businesses in Canada, in order to move to Canada and build their dream. So, that at the beginning was very interesting to me. And I fell in love with this space. I fell in love with entrepreneurship through acquisition. And I started having, conversations and spreading a lot of narrative around telling people that, you don't have to start a business to own one. Being an entrepreneur, as far as the traditional definition, identifying an idea, building it in your garage, and becoming a billionaire. There's a lot more conversation around that, and a lot more sexy conversation around that. Where as far as what we're trying to spearhead, we're trying to introduce to people that listen, you don't have to always go down that route. You may not be a great builder, but you may be a great operator. And you could definitely find and establish existing business today, a lifestyle business, something that, gives you purpose, and something that, gives you a reason to wake up, and something that you're passionate about, that you could own today and have impact and grow out the gate. So that's kind of the background of how I got into this. And now, our whole cause as a company is just to empower people to love what they do, right? And BizON is that vehicle.
Well, I think that's pretty exciting. And I loved how when you faced that need, then you started analyzing the market and you solved your own issue so that other people don't have that same problem. So that's fantastic. And we know that young money listeners, they're not going to be able to find corporate careers that are going to last 20, 30 years. So if it's not necessarily in your skill set or your passion to start up a business, this is a really great way to get into business ownership without having to do all the things that go with the startup.
Exactly.
Now, you've achieved a lot of success in your life thus far, and I'm sure you'll continue to have a lot more successes. When you think about everything that's kind of led you to where you are now, what would you say have been some of your key success factors that have kind of showed up repeatedly that have propelled you to where you are now?
Yeah, great question. And I think, I never look at myself in the lens of, I'm successful. I always look at myself in a lens as far as I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm listening, and I'm having fun. And success is not this finite achievement, right? It's this constant journey, in my opinion. And I think for me to date, what's allowed me to continue this journey and have fun is just being a great listener, right? And making the right decisions that set the tone for my company. And I think the secret to that success is, in order to make right decisions, you need to gain experience. And in order to gain experience, you need to make the wrong decisions. So it's always this journey of, trying, experimenting, learning, and just building that momentum. It's that journey that never stops. And I'm having fun with it. But I think if I had to, nail down a couple factors, I actually thought about that in the past, and I looked at it, and I established that there's pretty much 4 factors that I really prioritize as a person. And one is being reliable, because I feel if you're a reliable person, that leads to being kind and you have some integrity there. And people want to do business with people that are kind. The next is, staying focused. I know that when I'm focused, that leads to commitment, that leads to discipline. And it also allows me, with that commitment and discipline, it allows me to make bold bets so I could push the needle or move the needle forward for myself and my business. The next is curiosity, right? Like I said before, I enjoy being in this state of, wandering and experimenting and inventing. And at minimum, I want to inspire thoughts and curiosity within my team as well, so we could evolve and all contribute. So I think that curiosity factor is massive towards success as an individual or a business. And last, and probably my favorite factor, is just approaching things with energy. To be energetic is probably the most undervalued factor to success. Have energy, and if you have energy, that'll allow you to be gritty, and everyone knows that that grit is that ability to be persistent and passionate, and also know when to walk away from something, which I think is one of the toughest questions in success, right? There's at certain times when you're building a business or growing a business, there are a lot of times you have to audit and look at certain projects or decisions or partnerships, et cetera. And you have to look at it and you have to question, should we work on this and try harder, or should we walk away? And deciding when to walk away from something is a very important question. So at the end of the day, that's what success has looked like for me. And I think from the BizON perspective, success for me is just making sure that I'm advancing BizON's cause. Like I said earlier, that's just to empower people to love what they do. Everything else those are just results. But for us, like for an example, every single day as a team, we are collectively working extremely hard and thinking about the future and how we can continue to empower people to be business owners. So like I said, so they could wake up every morning living on their own terms. And we all believe, and I think this is another factor towards success, is we all believe that what we do is more than BizON the marketplace, right? BizON is just that vehicle at the moment, and we all know that. So there's something deeper that drives us all.
Excellent. And I know that any Young Money listeners who put some of these key success factors in practice in their life will certainly be doing very well, any one or all of them. So I love what you shared about being reliable, which leads to kind integrity, to staying focused around commitment and discipline. The curiosity piece, lifelong learning, is super important, but as well, that curiosity allows you to inspire others. And then certainly, last but not least, is approaching things with energy. And that allows you that ability to be persistent and resilient and show enthusiasm, because things are hard, but it's what you think of them and how you make of each situation. So I think that that's fantastic. So thanks for being so thoughtful in your answer for that one. I think it's given us lots of great things to think about.
No, my pleasure.
Now, when you think about your life so far, from your financial perspective, have you ever had a big turning point or a learning moment? Could even be something you wish you'd known earlier, and it can be personal or from your business experience.
Yeah. So from a BizON side of things, I think the most obvious turning point. So just to backpedal a bit. So when we started BizON, our go-to strategy for years was freemium, because we were in this growth mindset. But as soon as we decided to monetize and onboard, our first paying customers, to me, that was a massive turning point. There's nothing more humbling and exciting than seeing people, not friends and family, pay for something you created. It was just so special, and this validation that, we created something of value. So that was a massive turning point. In addition to that turning point, as soon as we started monetizing, we decided to immediately reinvest anywhere from 20 to 30% of every dollar back into marketing efforts, so we can attract more users and more listings and potentially, generate more revenue. And at the beginning, it was a pretty good strategy, but it just wasn't sustainable. Which leads me to the next answer, as far as what I wish I knew earlier. And believe it or not, I wish I knew not to be so hungry to onboard investors, or at least the wrong type of investors. I wish I knew to onboard investors more strategically. And I think the worst thing I did, especially at the beginning, was raising money for ad spend and marketing dollars in exchange for equity. I don't recommend that anyone does this. I think if you're going to give up equity in your company, you need to attract growth capital, and that capital should be used for headcount, for technology, for R&D. Right now there's great tools that kind of solve this pain point right now that can make it possible. Something like, I don't know if you've ever heard of ClearBank, but something like ClearBank definitely solves this little learning experience I went through. But yeah, that's probably something I wish I knew a little bit earlier.
Excellent advice. And we know on the podcast that we don't need to do things ourselves to learn from them. So you've probably saved a bunch of people from making that decision in the future. So that's wonderful.
Perfect. You're welcome, everyone.
And as I mentioned earlier, certainly we like to showcase Paths for Success. And given your wealth of experience, would love if you can share some tips with the Young Money listeners around first starting a business, and then tips when they're either buying or selling a business.
Sure. Yeah. One thing that I really do is I like to jot down and do a lot of journaling and write down my notes and things that inspire me or things that I've learned. And as far as, starting a business, it really comes down to just understanding that, a lot of people have good ideas. Yes, it is about the execution, but you need to also understand and sit back that not all good ideas are good businesses. And there's a big difference. And you need to drill down and figure that out, because it's different for everyone. But at the end of the day, I think, one thing that I really learned is just how important having the right team around you matters. Like, you need an A team that contributes, because you're going to be devoting a lot of your time into building a business or starting a business. A lot of people are going to start mattering. Like, for example, I think about, just my journey with building BizON. My laptop was there on my honeymoon. My laptop was there in the hospital room when my firstborn child was born, and my secondborn child. Like, it's a part of your life. So you want to make sure that everyone around you understands the excitement and commitment, and they all can contribute to building something great. Also, another thing is the market you service is extremely important as well. More important than you think. And a lot of people just don't really think about, they think about the target segment and how strong their product is and whatnot, but the actual market you service is very important. And what I mean by the market is the market size. Like, once again, you're devoting a ton of your energy into this. Make sure the market size is massive. Also, the moat that you have, or the potential to create around your product or company, make sure it's real. You really want real differentiators. And then another thing that you really want to focus on is a model that I created. It's called SET, right? You want to constantly audit the business environment in the following lenses: social, economic, and tech trends. And it's super important to always audit it in that way, because that'll give you the answers as far as if you're going the right direction or not. As far as starting a business, there's a long list of things that matter, like speed of implementation, right? Making sure you get things done, right? And you get things done with speed, and just this whole understanding that you need to remember there is a difference between speed and being fast in business. So, like, speed is being decisive and taking action on uncertainty, and having this willingness to, experiment in the right way. Or fast, is just making poor quality decisions. And I think when people are thinking about speed, they have to think about that and value your time. Like I said before, you're going to be devoting a ton of a ton of your time to your business, but you need to value it. So make sure every second you're putting towards achieving your goals, and don't waste your time, and put in that hard work and have those high standards. I think, these are all tips and factors for, starting a business successfully. In addition to having that right motive, like, why are you starting that business? And if you're telling me you're starting it to become a billionaire, walk away. Because generally that's not how that works. As far as buying or selling a business, I could summarize that quickly. Through the last 7 years of attracting a ton of people looking to buy and sell businesses, we kind of summarized 3 pillars that make a sellable business, or something that you should look for if you're buying a business. And the first is, the business should be self-sufficient. So it shouldn't be dependent on one leader, one employee, one supplier, or one customer. A buyer shouldn't enter a business with so many unknowns and the fear of losing that one client or supplier that jeopardizes everything. So that's one thing you need to consider. The next is timing. Like I said before, based on set, right? You want to make sure you're buying a business that aligns with social, economic, and tech trends. And you have to remember, if you're looking to buy an existing business, you're not buying the business for today. You're buying it for future opportunities. So be very clear on how that world looks. And then the last is the business model. So you need to really look at the type of business model the business has. There's obviously a great premium on business models that have monthly recurring revenue. But in general, you want to find a business that's profitable, that's growing, that has financials that are organized and up to date. Most buyers probably want to look for 3 to 5 years in financials, but you want to make sure they're prepared properly and organized. And like I said, even from the financial and the business model perspective, you need to remember and understand you're not buying the business for today. You're buying it for the future. So, the biggest tip is you want to question the financials and ensure that, that financial performance that business is showcasing can be upheld for the foreseeable future.
That's a really good point. And I spend my days working with entrepreneurs, and I know a lot like to avoid the money piece and looking at those numbers. So how could you do appropriate due diligence on the numbers if maybe that's not your area of strength?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The easy and simple answer is, you need to bring in a professional. The due diligence piece is a massive part of the buying process, and you need a professional that could validate the numbers for you. Especially if that's not if you're not an accountant or strong in finance, you need to bring in an accountant or someone that's very strong in finance to validate those statements.
It's probably important to mention, because some people listening may not be aware of this, but just because you start down the road and do due diligence on a potential acquisition doesn't mean it's always going through. I've been involved in a lot throughout the course of my career where they didn't go through because the due diligence proved that it wasn't going to be a good fit, or it wasn't necessarily as good a business as it looked like. And so being okay to walk away, like you talked about a little bit earlier in the interview.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I think we have to remember, selling a small business, especially in our space, is extremely difficult. And that's why we're around. We're trying to make it a little bit easier and more transparent and whatnot. But, the industry average for a successful purchase and sale is about 25%. So 25% of conversations are actually going to go through. So, our success rate for BizON is about 40%. We're performing double due to a number of factors, and one of them is just attracting the right type of audience. But let's sit back and think about that. 60% of the connections made through our platform, do not end up in a successful purchase and sale. So no, you're absolutely right. And that's another thing. Like, no one should ever feel forced into an acquisition or a purchase. Like, this is a massive decision. It's going to be either your number one or number two biggest asset you'll own. So it definitely deserves the attention. And if it is not exactly what you're looking for, and you have any level of discomfort, you walk away.
And that really is a good segue into the next question I have, which is, what missteps or mistakes do you see being made either in the startup space or when people are going to either sell their business or to purchase one?
Yeah. So I think in the startups space, there's a couple. One is, people aren't really betting on the future, even though it seems like it is. People are, they really aren't. And the second is patience. People are really impatient. So with regards to the first one in the future, so most people in business or leaders, they really fail to let go of, what's made them successful or what they're comfortable with. And you can't do that. You need to constantly evolve to make sure your service and product stays ahead of the curve. And I think the best CEOs become experts at letting go. They really know when to, like I said before, they really know when to walk away from something or try harder at something, and they take those appropriate bold bets on the future in order to avoid status quo and build their moat around their business. That's one. The second is just impatience, right? Impatience drives a
Mm-hmm.
ton of people in the startup world to lose faith in what they're trying to create. Because, like I said before, most of the times, the creation of a business is to generate a ton of money. Like that's the main leading motive versus creating something that will add extreme value to the world. So obviously, like any normal person or sane person, they're going to end up quitting and failing at the first glance of an obstacle, or once they start noticing, wow, money isn't really coming in as quickly as I thought it would. So they're just going to give up. So I think in order to stay patient and build a great business, you need to have the right motives in the first place. So I think that's happening in the startup world a lot. Being an entrepreneur has become glamorized and oh, everyone can become an entrepreneur, and you're the next Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, right? And it's like, okay, cool, yes, but make sure you're starting it for the right reasons, not because you want to pop champagne and be on a yacht. And I think that's the biggest disconnect right now.
Yeah, and I can really attest to that because the majority of business owners that I work with, because I help them from a financial coaching standpoint, most of them are not making any money themselves, and they're continuing to support their business till they get to that critical mass where it really kind of takes off. So the dream doesn't always align with the reality.
Yeah, and that's why you have to have it, like you have to have that deeper motive and deeper cause for what you're really doing and what you're trying to build and create. I would say for the greatest in the world, a majority of them, I'm pretty confident to say probably 98+% of the best entrepreneurs in the world never had the motive as in I want to become filthy rich.
Mm-hmm.
I just really believe that. As far as mistakes that we generally see when people are looking to buy a business, once again, just based off what we've seen in the last 7 years, it really comes down to sloppy due diligence. Right? People aren't pulling in the right acquisition team. Like I said before, they're not validating those financials, and they're not thinking about, how that business will look like in the future. So they really make these emotional decisions to
Mm-hmm.
purchase versus, a real strong, diligent decision to purchase that business off of my set model and looking at, yes, maybe the business looks good now, but what will it look like in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months from now, right? I think, that's one of the biggest mistakes. The next is, a lot of them not agreeing to a proper transition plan with the previous owner. On average, I think most deals have anywhere from 3 to 6 month transition period where the previous owner will stay on board and make sure that everything is organized and neat, and there's a lot of, I guess, learnings
Support.
that and learnings and support that the new owners have to go through. But there are some deals that the buyer doesn't even think about that. So think about a strong transition plan.
Well, that's fantastic, and certainly highlights the key areas really to be focused on to be successful
Yeah.
with that. Now, before I let you go, are there any final pieces of advice you have for the Young Money listeners, or anything that you just want to reiterate that you've already mentioned, just to make sure everybody's hearing you?
Yeah. So one of, this is kind of on a big poster on, beside my sink at the washroom, and it literally just reminds me that every day it literally just says move relentlessly, decisively forward, and it just is a quick trigger for me and a reminder that you need to in business you need to keep moving, right? You can't stay in your comfy chair. You need to keep exploring. You need to keep experimenting. You need to keep growing. You need to keep learning. That's the fun part of it. The relentless aspect of it is you need to go after what you want with, consistency and grit, and never take no as an answer. The decisive part of it is it reminds me that you need to make decisions quickly and effectively, right? You just can't stay, idle in business. You need, even if you're going to make the wrong decision, at least you'll learn from that. It's better than not
Mm-hmm.
making a decision at all, right? And then the last one forward is, you really need to bet on the future, right? And think about, how your business is going to be in 2 to 3 years from now and how that looks from a social, economic, and tech perspective, right? So constantly look forward. And I think I probably I probably wouldn't want to leave this out, but I also want to tell all the listeners, don't shy away from entrepreneurship through acquisition. You don't need to start a business to own one, right? So there's a ton of pros for buying an existing business, from less risk to shorter return on your money, and to having impact, right? You buy an existing breathing business, you have existing relationships with clients and suppliers and stakeholders, right, for you to manage. So it's exciting.
So, what are you working on now that's exciting? And where can Young Money listeners go to learn more about you and to learn more about BizON?
Yeah, so we have a ton going on at BizOn. Oh my God.
pick
I,
pick two things.
so we are restructuring a lot of our partnerships in the back end, and we're doing a lot of optimization from our back end code in order to just structure the site in a better way to perform better and just be more optimized. So those are a couple things on the top of my mind, but we're continuously developing projects and products and services and tech with to help people buy and sell in a better way. So we're really always looking to empower people to love what they do, and our top three goals that stay consistent year over year, like they literally never change, and it's what
Mm-hmm.
drives us all the time, is we want to be a top of mind global brand. We want to make the most successful connections, which right now we have been, and we want to provide our users with a vast amount of opportunities, both in independently owned businesses and franchise businesses, and resources. So we really want to be there for them. That's kind of what's on the go constantly. As far as I think you asked where they could learn more about us.
Mm-hmm. Best way to find out more about you and the company.
Yeah, so BizOn is literally on every social platform. We're the most active on Twitter, which our handle is at MyBizOn. So MYBIZON.
Certainly, we'll put in the show notes, I'll put all the links for all your platforms so people can find you.
Perfect. Yeah. So we're the most active on Twitter and Instagram. Obviously, check out our website, and also my personal business group. There's a lot of great conversations happening around leadership, culture, and entrepreneurship and business there. That's where they can learn more about, myself and BizOn.
Well, thank you so much, Nunzio. It's been absolute pleasure to have you here. I think it's been pretty much a masterclass on business today. So I think that that's wonderful. Some of the things that I'm taking away with me, because I think that you've made so many great points and shared so many great examples with us. Really loved when you were talking about your key success factors and kind of how you've got to where you are in your life and how successful you've been, is to think about it as a journey, and not that you're trying to hit these destinations on the way somewhere, but really about the whole experience. I think that's a great way to think about it, and really lines up with what you were saying about when people decide to be an entrepreneur, whether they start the business or they buy it, that they start with that right motivation, so that they're driven to do it from a bigger purpose versus just doing it just to make money. So many great tips you shared around starting a business. A couple that really stand out for me are validating your idea. make sure the people on your team and certainly the people in your life understand what that means and how excited you're going to be about it and what's involved. And then I love that audit acronym that you gave us, SET, around looking at things through the lens of social, economic, and then tech trends. And that really spans starting a business as well as you're buying it. And the importance of looking at that business model when you are buying a business, absolutely critical. In terms of those missteps or things to avoid, being impatient and not really thinking about the future. And then kind of my all-time favorite, because I'm a risk manager and a banker by former background. So being sloppy on your due diligence and not getting that right plan in place to do the transition will probably set you up for some failure. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. It's been a great chat.
My pleasure. This was a great opportunity and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So there you have it, Young Money listeners. Nunzio Presta, ex-hockey player turned entrepreneur, and he is the founder and CEO of BizON. Until next time, take good care and stay financially fit.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. To all you millionaires in the making out there, if you love this podcast, please subscribe on iTunes to keep your financial fitness training going. Oh, and leave us a review. And be sure to visit 2 S's, 2 T's, financialfitness.com to take your free financial fitness assessment. Find out how financially fit you really are. See you next week, young millionaires to be.